All right, ready to get started. Good morning or good afternoon, depending on where you are in this wonderful world. Welcome to today's webinar, How to Plan for the Unknown Costs and Maximize ROI using Salesforce as your AMS. I am Terry Carden. I am the founder of ReviewMyAMS.com and the creator of an event called AMS Fest coming up June 5th and 6th. Got to give that plug there. And I am thrilled to be your hostess for the next little bit today. What's even better than the fact that I get to hang with you guys for a little while is the fact that our co-host for today, the Applusify team, is one of the newest supporters of Review My AMS. I'll tell you a little bit more about Review My MS in just a moment, and I will also introduce you to Regis. But first, let's cover a few housekeeping items. This webinar is being recorded and will be accessible from the Applusify team or myself within the next day or so. We'll also be doing a key takeaways write-up on the Review My MS blog, and we'll have a link to the recording there so you can dig for it if you need to find it. And always feel free to pass on any of the webinars or the webinar recordings or the write-ups that we have with any of your colleagues if you find them helpful. So that we don't interrupt the flow of today's webinar, we're going to take about 5 to 10 minutes at the end of Regis's presentation to field all your burning questions. But at any time a question comes into your mind, feel free to use the chat tab or the Q&A box that's there in your Zoom window, and we'll do our best to get to your questions at the end. Now, let's get down to today's business, and for that, let me tell you a little bit about the game plan for today. So the game plan is this is only gonna be fast and furious 30 minutes or so. There are gonna be a couple of polls. So we ask for you to participate, listen up whenever you see those polls come through. Again, feel free to submit your questions in the window, and stay tuned for a link to the webinar to pass it along to your friends. At any time, for any reason, you need to ask us a question outside of this webinar, feel free to email us at wecare@applusify.com. So real fast, Review My MS is home to nearly 1,000 end user reviews. Oh my gosh, I just thanked the human that gave this morning the 997th review, because we are so close and we are just getting ready to celebrate our 5-year anniversary of Review My MS. Hard to believe. But what's super cool is that when companies like Applusify support Review My MS, it means that they stand for transparency in what can be a very convoluted, very confusing marketplace of AMSs. So we appreciate the support of Applusify and all of the supporters of Review My MS. And again, if you are somewhere in the process of finding a new AMS, or you're just curious what the marketplace is like right now, feel free to join us in Chicago AMS Fest, June 5th and 6th. Now, enough about me. Let me introduce you to our speaker for today, Regis Dongo. He is the Customer Success Manager at Applusify, and he's in charge of understanding clients' problems and working with them to implement the best solutions for their individual scenarios. He specializes in working with associations, nonprofits, as well as higher education. So, say hi, Regis. Tell us a little bit about Applusify and take it away.
Hey, thank you so much, Terry. And by the way, congrats again for hitting 997. I'm sure you guys will be hitting that 1,000 mark very soon. I wanted to go into first just talking about the agenda for today, actually. And you guys are probably already kind of familiar with this. We're going to be talking about a few different topics, which is what are the unknown costs of Salesforce implementation? What is the total cost of ownership and long-term cost of Salesforce? How do you minimize spending and maximize ROI? What are the important factors in the decision-making process of CRM investment, and how to choose the best CRM for your association? These are just very common questions that we get from our current clients, and I thought that this might be important for you guys to hear and understand if considering, or if you already have Salesforce and these questions are stuff that you are inquiring about. So Applusify, we are about a 200 plus organization with a focus on Salesforce managed services for associations, nonprofits, and higher institutions. We provide a digital transformation using Salesforce as a platform. We provide blended skills for ongoing Salesforce success, including admins, Salesforce architects, integration experts, association technology experts, as your true extended team. Currently, we're offering a free 2 to 10 hour consultation and health check of your systems to kind of get you guys on the right path to really optimizing on the Salesforce platform. And again, we're at about a guaranteed $65 per hour to help you guys if you were to onboard with us. So very quickly, just to kind of gauge and understand, just to kind of gauge through this webinar and gauge where you guys are at currently, I wanted to just bring you guys in and raise a poll so I can understand where you guys are at currently, um, of what interests you with Salesforce. So you guys can go ahead and start voting. And then just a few moments, I'll be able to share with you guys um, the the answers, and you'll be able to also see what the percentage of people and their issues in Salesforce. So I'm just going to give it a couple more seconds, and then we'll close off the polling, and I'll be able to share the polling results with you guys. Okay. Okay, so as you guys probably see here, so it looks like what interests a lot of people with Salesforce was implementing Salesforce. They were implementing a Salesforce-based AMS, and that's what kind of sparked up the Salesforce interest. Some people, it looks like a slight percentage, was considering Salesforce, or they had a Salesforce native AMS, or they were interested in the Salesforce native AMS. Or actually a lot of you guys were just curious about Salesforce and what it can be able to offer. And I think through this webinar, we'll be able to cover a lot of these things, and hopefully it's going to be helpful for you guys. So a digital transformation, what's important to, how has Salesforce contributed to a digital transformation of associations? So a lot of our clients are using a legacy system that's keeping them from keeping their data in silos, and that utilizing Salesforce for digital transformation. Um, So basically, it's keeping them from utilizing Salesforce efficiently. A lot of people are not considering Salesforce as a platform, and rather they're considering it more as a CRM. I want people to start being able to consider Salesforce and utilizing it and building a 360 view of your member engagement, so that you're within your association, you're not so siloed. And that's what's really important when considering a digital transformation. And that's, a lot of people ask me what a digital transformation is. So I just wanted to explain that to you guys, to help you guys meet donor expectations, enhance visibility of the association, and global connect. So what are the unknowns, and how do we plan for the unknowns? There are quite a few unknowns when implementing Salesforce or when considering Salesforce. One of which is the licensing cost, and I don't think that this is stressed enough or mentioned enough. I often work with associations who are not aware of these certain costs, like the number of users that they will be that will need access to Salesforce. This could affect the licensing costs. Um, Another thing is maybe the version of Salesforce that you're going to be going with. It can, maybe either enterprise or premier, there's just different, or premier, there's different Salesforce versions that you guys can be implementing. So that's another cost that can affect. Will you be making calls through Salesforce, or how many emails will you be sending out? These are all things to consider. Another thing is the implementation costs, and that's a big thing, and that's really something that I want you guys to think a lot about if you guys are going to be implementing Salesforce. I had a client who thought their implementation would be fairly simple. They had someone on staff that was going to be assigned to playing that admin role and making that implementation. But once they started considering, once they started doing the data import, um, the individual found that by themselves doing the data import was almost impossible because they had to start um, planning the transformation and doing planning the data import, realizing that there's going to be issues and they're going to have to do maybe some data cleansing. They had to structure their organization carefully so that the records that they have um, can make sense inside the Salesforce database. They had to start thinking about whether or not they're going to use the out of the box Salesforce or if they're going to make customizations. So just consider, if all those things when implementing Salesforce, because that might come with an additional cost if you're going to have somebody just on staff doing that for you, or if you're going to work with a partner, or just there's just a lot of different options to getting this done. So that can come with an associated cost. Again, the integration plan and costs, or cost of integrations. If you're going to make some integrations with different software systems that you're currently using, you might need to think about how the integrations will be made. If you're going to hire a developer at that point to make some integrations, if you're going to work with a partner, those are all things to consider. The ongoing support. Um, Many people don't realize this, but software is very sensitive. It's always changing, and your associations are always changing as well. And you need to make sure that the software is able to move along with you. Is your admin going to be able to help support that through the process and making development and maybe customizing objects? Those are all things to consider. Or if you're going to, find somebody that's maybe a developer, and you can sometimes reach out to them and have them help you with doing some customizations. These are also costs to consider on the software system. Um, Training for your internal team. How long is it going to take your internal team to train and get up to speed with Salesforce, or how to even use it? Yes, there is such a thing called as a Trailhead, and they can go through it and learn about Salesforce and how to manage it. But this can take time away from what they are currently already assigned to doing. So also something to consider. Once again, I just want to raise a quick poll to get an idea of your surprises of, if there are any surprises to this, if you don't have Salesforce yet, or if you have Salesforce and you had some of these surprises. So I want to raise this poll to kind of gauge through this conversation. So you guys can go ahead and submit your answers, and I'll be able to share the results. So I'm just going to give it a few more seconds, and then I'll be able to share that. It looks like we have a few more attendees that might need a vote. If you guys can just go ahead and enter in a vote, and then we can go ahead and close the polling. Okay, well, I'm going to go ahead and close the polling here and share the results. So a lot of you guys had other things that took you by surprise, and I guess it wasn't necessarily some of the things that were mentioned here through the polls. Those are just through my experience, but the things that I know people are taken by surprise with or become frustrated using Salesforce, and you know it makes them decide maybe to switch off and find another CRM, or they just didn't kind of plan for the associated cost. So it looks like some people said um, data silos still exist. Salesforce consulting companies invoice. That is a pretty common one as well. I want to say that the Salesforce companies invoice definitely um, often comes into surprise for a lot of clients that we come into contact with after the fact. Now, um, this is a very interesting question, and it's should you avoid customizations? Um, so that's a very good question. There's kind of two schools of thought for this process. One of which is kind of going with the out of the box solution, um, and so that you don't have to worry about the complications associated to having to change stuff and not worrying about the cost of having to change anything and making it not take effect into the software system. The other school of thought is the school of thought is making customizations so that it can match your your association, and people are not left confused when maybe talking about if you guys have affiliates or chapters or different things that people are familiar with within the association that people can refer to rather than maybe just for example out of the box of Salesforce and the sales app is you have leads and prospects. Maybe something else matches your association. So that's kind of just two ways about thinking about it that I wanted to mention. The out of the box can work, but do you want to make changes in your association to fit into what's out of the box, or do you want to make the customizations that will be relevant to your association? So, how do you manage your Salesforce? Have you hired a Salesforce admin at $100,000 per year? Have you hired a consulting company at $150 per hour? Um, do you have an accidental Salesforce admin to customize or manage Salesforce or are you assuming a one and done approach will be satisfactory? The reason why I wanted to bring this up is because this is a very common situation that our associations come to us with, is that they've gone ahead and hired a Salesforce admin, but when they hired the Salesforce admin, they realized that this individual might not be enough to make some of the customizations that you may need. I mean, you get into a situation where you have the admin, but you're realizing that the out of the box solution might not be what's going to be satisfactory to your association. What do you do then? Do you just, maybe the admin doesn't have the skill sets to be able to make the changes that need to be done for you guys to be effective? Or if you hired a consulting company, you hired a consulting company at $150 per hour. Is that something that you are able to afford? Um, and not really knowing what the expenses will be and just going with a set rate of $150 per hour. How do you know and how do you manage that within your association? How do you budget for that? That's another concern. An accidental Salesforce admin, and this happens a lot, and I'm sure a lot of you guys probably experienced this. You might fallen into the task of having to handle Salesforce on top of other things that you're doing. If maybe it's operations and Salesforce also falls under your category, you're an accidental admin, but think about the fact, does it take away from your day-to-day operations if you're also having to start um, administrating the platform? Those are issues that we come across all the time. So these are things to consider when doing this. If you're gonna go the route of getting a team on your end with a Salesforce admin and maybe even hiring a developer, think of those cost structures and how that can look like. Or are you just assuming the one and done approach, and will that be satisfactory? I really wanted to stress the fact that will that be satisfactory, because I'm not sure the one and done approach would be, and that's just my honest opinion, because I've seen a lot of our clients end up being very frustrated with the one and done approach where they just implemented Salesforce and expect it to just run and do its job, and nobody's gonna have to do anything to make it really work. So the summary of how do you ensure success? I want to leave you guys on some positive notes rather than just giving you some of the negatives of what can happen. There are a lot of positives. Salesforce is a great platform. It's very useful for our clients, using it as a hub. Um, like I mentioned earlier, so that you're, within your associations, different groups you're not siloed, and people are able to communicate within the associations. Um, we had an issue with a client who had their marketing department that was getting ready for an event where they were sending registration emails to their you know to their donors or people or their members, and then they had their business development team that was getting people signed in, and people were already signing up. They were very successful in doing so, but because the marketing department and the business development team weren't really able to communicate, um, the marketing team was still sending emails to people uh, who had already signed up. And those are just things to consider. You want to be effective in your marketing strategies. There's no point of your marketing team wasting time in sending emails to people who have already signed up and leaving them frustrated. Maybe it's better for them to start focusing on some of the people they haven't reached out to. So those are just also things to consider. So you want to find and budget for an affordable method to ensure the Salesforce solution aligns with your organization's mission and mandate. You want to avoid costly mistakes in finding the right out-of-the-box apps and AMS that fit your organization's needs. So it's important to really do your research, and make sure you have all the right information of whatever AMS system you bring in. There are some that can maybe cover a lot of your needs, but then there might be a few other needs that that you will need to maybe customize, or that might not fall into the place of the AMS system. So those are all things to consider. And I know that we've seen a lot of people left frustrated with implementing an AMS system that doesn't necessarily fit their needs. You want to include an internal team to customize the solution, reports, and interfaces of your needs. So whether you're working with your internal team, you have an internal team that's Salesforce focused, or whether you're gonna, work with an outsourced team that's gonna really understand your platform and help you guys through the process. So those are all things that I would advise for you guys so that you can ensure success. So
All right, so we're going to open it up for some questions, and have been some questions coming through. So thanks everybody for your curiosity and participation here. Are you ready, Regis, for the questions of the day?
absolutely, go ahead, please, Terry.
Okay, so Deb asks, do you recommend a backup solution in addition to the data recovery offered by Salesforce?
Do I recommend a backup solution? I probably would. The one that's just because Salesforce, it's not going to fit everybody. Everybody has different needs. I definitely would make sure that you do some research, and um, make sure you do your research, and you're sure that whatever you bring in is going to be able to fit all your needs. Um, I would really suggest your own backup, really, rather than the one that's offered.
Okay. Does Salesforce have a customer service contact? So I think Robin's asking here, do they have customer service that they can provide, or is it generally outsourced?
Yeah, so they have customer service, and they're able to help you guys out. I think they even also have something called Premier Support, and that can also be very useful. It really depends on what you're trying to accomplish. I know that oftentimes Premier Support, for example, will guide you into the right path of, if you're stuck somewhere on Salesforce, you're not sure how to do something, if you have an issue. Um, Premier Support will, tell you, hey, go look at this trailhead, and follow this course so you can learn on how to get yourself unstuck with that issue that you have. So those are the things that they're able to provide. But in terms of support, like it really depends what kind of support you want. If you're looking for more support where it's more strategic based, I'm not sure that they'll be able to provide that for you.
Okay. Salesforce is a huge company, so them being able to cater to individual needs, I think, could potentially be a stretch. I've never worked directly with Salesforce, so that's just me speaking a little offhand here, but could be tough rather than a smaller shop that can handle individual strategic needs. So,
Yeah,
um,
exactly. So much there.
how long does a Salesforce implementation take?
That's a question that we actually get quite a bit, and that's a really hard question to answer because it really depends on your association. It really depends on how many users you plan on having on your Salesforce platform. It depends on what you plan on doing with it. If you're going to have your accounting systems on it, if you're going to have your marketing systems on it, are you going to have to implement marketing cloud, sales cloud, service cloud? All of those things need to be considered. So that's a really tough question. But that is, like I mentioned, we are offering a free sort of um, a free sort of consultation to help some of our clients strategize on that, so that they have an idea of, so they have an estimated idea of how long that something like that can take, because it really depends to each individual association.
Okay. Um, that sounds about right, like an accurate answer. It's not going to take you 3 months. I can just about promise you that. So I actually had a question come in by email, and this person is asking what you think, Regis, of Salesforce solutions. No, he says, ask him why he thinks, why are Salesforce solutions a good fit for associations?
Salesforce solutions, do they mean like AMS systems?
Yes, specifically, I think AMSs, I'm guessing here.
Okay, I think implementing an AMS system can be a great solution for a lot of associations. Maybe if you don't have very complex needs, or there are different AMS systems, and some of them are very directed exactly towards your association. It's going to be able to provide exactly what you need to do. Obviously, you can talk to whatever representative you go with, if it's Fontiva, Nimble, or whatever it may be. I'm just naming a couple off the top of my head. Um, but that can be a great solution because it can be cost saving. But oftentimes I've seen where maybe the AMS system didn't have everything that you may need. Then you might implement the AMS system, but also maybe consider doing other things additionally to that, so that you have all your needs encompassed into your Salesforce um, platform. Does that make sense at all, Terry?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So hopefully that's helpful for whoever said that question.
Mm-hmm. And I'm assuming you work with um, all of the AMS vendors that are built atop the Salesforce platform.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
We're not, biased to any. I think we have great relationships with a lot of them. We have clients that use a lot of different AMS systems. We're able to help them maybe not um, do anything custom to their AMS system. We don't make any changes to their AMS systems, but if they need additional functionalities, we're definitely able to help them on that. Or if they're having issues, for example, um, if they've implemented some sort of, maybe if they've implemented something that's maybe causing some issues to their, Salesforce platform, maybe with data issues, those are things that we can help them and strategize on how we can fix those issues.
Okay. Fair enough. So the same person that asked about the customer service, she's just wanting to jump in a little bit deeper. So, like right now, she has a partnership with her AMS, and when something isn't working, she reaches out to that AMS for specific help. So she's just trying to wrap her mind around and understand, um, would she be on her own if something went wrong, if they integrated or if they implemented Salesforce?
would she be left on her own? I'm not
Mm-hmm.
sure I understand. If she implemented the AMS, if she implemented the AMS system to Salesforce, would she be left alone
Mm-hmm. Meaning, like, would she not have the customer service availability to her?
for Salesforce?
Mm-hmm.
I don't see why that would have any issue to her Salesforce customer service support. I don't see why that would take any. I mean, Salesforce is a platform. I mean, Salesforce is it's not a CRM anymore. It's they want the users on Salesforce to use it as a platform. The more things that you're adding onto it to make your association work effectively is what it's built for. If you're
Okay.
implementing an AMS system and implementing different software systems, that's what it's built for. You just have to do it with a smart, strategic plan.
Mm-hmm.
And that's really what I was trying um, to stress is that you really need somebody who has experience inside Salesforce before you bring anything in that you're unsure of. If you don't have all the answers to something, I probably would try and find those answers prior to that. Even if it comes at a cost, it might be more worthwhile.
Gotcha. So it looks like we have another question specifically about Salesforce, but then the other questions that have come in are specifically about Applusify. So I'm going to answer this one last question about Salesforce, and then if Regis, you can help us answer some questions that people are inquiring about Applusify.
Sure.
So Gigi asks, can you explain more on licensing and admin role?
Licensing and admin role. Does she mean the cost of licensing, I guess? I'm assuming.
I'm
Um,
not sure.
it's
Gigi, if you
really
can maybe
I'm
uh,
going to try and also preemptively answer that. The cost of licensing, all I was trying to mention is that there are things that are sort of out of our control, or us as a firm helping our clients implement Salesforce and work on Salesforce. Those are out of our concern. Those are out of our control. It's really working with your Salesforce rep, who's going to be able to kind of guide you on the better path. The licenses just really vary on what you're using your Salesforce platform for, or and how you're using it. And I'm not sure if that's what she meant.
okay. Well,
And then the admin role, I just wanted to also touch base on that. The question, she wanted to inquire more about the admin role?
her question is, can you explain more on licensing and admin role?
Okay, the admin role, you just, sometimes you can find an admin who's going to be, I mean, just a rock star and have all the skills ever needed to do anything you wanted on Salesforce. That's a possibility. But oftentimes, I think we're all human, and Salesforce is just so robust that not just one person can can you know can use it effectively to help you guys. You need a lot of different skill sets. You need an admin, you need a developer, you need a business analyst, you need an architect, you need people to help you guys test to make sure there's not going to be any issues while you're implementing something. Like I was mentioning earlier, you don't want to implement something that's going to affect you guys afterwards, and then you're going to realize what you implemented might not have been the right solution for you. So all those things are skills, are things that you will need. And even those things alone, I don't think just one person has the time to research on all those things um, in a timely fashion. So,
Okay. Thank you. So now just really fast, thanks for the few of you who are asking or inquiring about specifically about Applusify. Oh, well, hang on just one second. Let's just go back to that. Our current AMS have multiple admin roles, but we are in the process of implementing Nimble Salesforce based on the platform and wanted to understand the admin role. Does that clarify her question anymore, Regis?
can you repeat that just one more time? I'm sorry.
Sure. Our current AMS have multiple admin roles,
How does her? So
but
she at her association, she has
right,
multiple
the current AMS,
current
but they're
AMS system.
implementing Nimble based on the platform, and they want to understand the admin role.
Well, really depends on the admins that she has currently. Are they going to be able to be skilled enough to be able to implement Nimble as well? That's just really something that she needs to start thinking about, really. Um, you know, I would suggest maybe talking to Nimble and understanding all the moving parts of making that implementation, and then talking to different people who are experts inside Salesforce, um, to really determine whether or not your team is going to be able to make the implementation safely and effectively.
Okay. And she said thanks. And so did you maybe reach out to Regis afterwards? Regis, if while I ask these next few questions, if you want to put up that next slide with our contact information so people can access it. Um, let's see. Someone asked, what does your best customer look like? That's a great question.
Our best customer, what do they look like? Um, I don't want to go, I guess I don't want to go ahead and just name one of our customers, but we have, customers who are very, uh, who have very complex situations, and those are the ones that we really are happy to be working with. And not that we don't like the ones that aren't very complex, but we like being able to find solutions for them. Maybe they weren't aware of different strategic options that they had within the Salesforce platform. For example, we had, just recently I was working with a team at our client's office where we had a young woman who was doing a lot of things on her Excel spreadsheets and not aware that a lot of the things that she was doing off of Salesforce could be done easier on the Salesforce platform. So helping her and her team facilitate their their day-to-day activities on the Salesforce platform is something that we did with them, and we have been working with all of the different departments at their association to also use Salesforce effectively. We've gone through to them to uh, guide them and do training for them, teach them, baby steps, and not everybody is going to jump onto Salesforce and know right away how to use it. Um, so just teaching them even at a very beginner level of how to even log in, how to start utilizing.
Okay.
I don't know if that was a very good answer to her
Well,
question.
I think another one came in that, so maybe being a little bit more specific, are your customers mainly like 501c3, like donation driven, like true, like a nonprofit oriented, or are they more trade professional societies?
So we have a lot of clients actually. We have um, um, a lot of different. So we have all of those different associations. Like I said, we work with a lot of different nonprofits, um, education, people in higher education. Um, so they all we have a lot of different examples of those for sure. And if I'm not sure who would ask the questions, but if they're interested in talking more about that, I'd be glad to off the webinar, and we can
Sure.
be a little bit more personal about some of those circumstances or those use cases.
Okay. All right. So I think that's about all we have time for today. Was there anything I missed, Regis? I think I've answered or tackled most of the questions that are here on the back end, but
Yeah.
if there are any other questions that I've missed, please, you guys feel free to reach out to Regis or myself. I'll be sure to get you in contact with the guys over at Plusify, and they can definitely dig in deeper on all things Salesforce.
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, I guess I think you tackled everything there, and I think I just wanted to add also because at the beginning I had mentioned that we're at about $65 per hour for our services, our managed services. But one thing that's important that I wanted to, I guess, just leave you guys off with, and this is a question that we get a lot, it's, you know, is there a different set price for different skill sets that you will need in the Salesforce on the Salesforce platform? We've been talking a lot about different skill sets that you need to be efficient on Salesforce. Um, that's not a cost that changes at all. You're able to use our managed packages. at that set price and you go into a fixed price and there are no other um, unforeseen costs to what you sign up with. And I think that that's a great benefit to the associations and the associations that we work with. So I guess I just wanted to leave off with that one note.
Okay. Well, thanks so much for your insights today on both Plusify and on Salesforce. Brené Brown once said, "There is no innovation and creativity without failure, period." So don't be afraid to get out there and try new things, guys. Thanks so much, everyone, for being here today. And we'll see you hopefully again on a future webinar. Thanks so much.
Thank you very much, Sherry.
Bye.